Imagine a moment when global stability suddenly begins to tremble. A conflict between United States and Iran would already create intense political and military tension across the world. But if North Korea decided to step into such a war, the situation could grow far more dangerous. The involvement of another nuclear-armed nation would raise fears of a much wider conflict, drawing international alliances and rivalries into a complicated and highly volatile struggle. North Korea and Iran have maintained quiet strategic ties for many years. Both countries have faced international sanctions and political pressure, which has pushed them to cooperate in certain areas of military technology and defense planning. Experts have long suggested that the two nations may have exchanged knowledge about missile systems and defense capabilities. Because of this background, some analysts believe that if Iran were engaged in a war with the United States, North Korea might feel compelled to support Tehran in some form. However, North Korea would most likely begin its involvement indirectly rather than by sending soldiers to the battlefield. It could provide weapons, missile technology, military training, or strategic intelligence. Such assistance could strengthen Iran's ability to defend itself and prolong the conflict. North Korea has a history of exporting military equipment to countries under pressure, so offering this kind of support would not be completely unexpected. If such cooperation happened, it would immediately create a serious challenge for the United States. American military forces operate in many regions of the world, including the Middle East and East Asia. Supporting allies and managing two potential crises at the same time would place enormous pressure on U.S. military planning and resources. Strategic focus could be divided between confronting Iran in the Middle East and deterring North Korean activity in Asia. Countries in East Asia would become extremely concerned if North Korea became involved. South Korea and Japan rely heavily on security partnerships with the United States. If North Korea used the global tension as an opportunity to conduct missile tests or military demonstrations, these nations would feel directly threatened. Their governments would likely strengthen defense systems and prepare for possible escalation. Major global powers would also play an important role in shaping the outcome. China and Russia maintain complex relationships with both Iran and North Korea. While they might avoid direct involvement in the war, their diplomatic support, economic assistance, or political positioning could influence how the conflict develops and how long it lasts. The economic impact of such a conflict could spread quickly across the globe. A war involving Iran could disrupt major oil supply routes in the Middle East, particularly the strategic shipping lanes used by international energy markets. If tensions also extended toward East Asia because of North Korea's involvement, global trade routes across the Pacific could face uncertainty. The result might be rising fuel prices, unstable markets, and economic stress for many nations. Another serious concern would be nuclear weapons. North Korea has spent decades building its nuclear arsenal and developing long-range missile technology. If the conflict escalated dramatically, the presence of multiple nuclear powers in a tense military environment would create enormous fear around the world. Even the possibility of nuclear threats could cause panic in international diplomacy and security planning. Modern warfare would not only be fought with missiles and aircraft. Cyber warfare could become a powerful tool in such a conflict. North Korea is believed to have strong cyber capabilities and could attempt to target financial networks, communication systems, or infrastructure of its opponents. If combined with Iran's cyber units, coordinated digital attacks could disrupt technology systems in several countries. Despite these alarming possibilities, global leaders generally try to prevent conflicts from expanding to such extreme levels. Diplomatic negotiations, international organizations, and pressure from other nations often work behind the scenes to stop wars from growing into worldwide disasters. When nuclear-armed states are involved, the stakes are so high that many governments push hard for de-escalation. This hypothetical scenario shows how fragile the balance of global politics can be. When alliances, rivalries, and military power intersect, even a regional conflict can threaten international stability. The possibility of North Korea entering a war between the United States and Iran reminds the world how important diplomacy, cooperation, and peaceful solutions are for the future of humanity. In the end, wars between powerful nations rarely bring real victory for anyone. They create suffering, economic hardship, and long-lasting instability. The most responsible path for the world is to strengthen dialogue and international understanding so that conflicts are solved through negotiation rather than destruction.
If North Korea were to enter a war between Iran and Israel, the entire Middle East could face a far more dangerous and unstable situation. The region already struggles with political rivalries, military tensions, and fragile alliances. The involvement of another heavily armed nation could intensify the conflict and make the war much larger than it originally was, creating fear and uncertainty across neighboring countries. North Korea has maintained a history of cooperation with Iran in areas related to military technology and missile development. Because of this relationship, Pyongyang could decide to support Tehran during a conflict. This support might not always involve soldiers on the battlefield, but it could include weapons, military knowledge, or strategic assistance that strengthens Iran's ability to continue fighting. If such support happened, the conflict between Iran and Israel could become more destructive. More powerful weapons, improved missile systems, or advanced military planning could increase the intensity of attacks. Cities, military bases, and important infrastructure across the region might face greater threats, making the war more devastating for both soldiers and civilians. Another serious impact would be the possibility of the war spreading to other nearby countries. Nations and armed groups that are politically aligned with Iran could feel encouraged to join the confrontation against Israel. This could open several battlefronts at the same time, turning the conflict into a much wider regional war involving multiple states and armed groups. The involvement of North Korea would also raise alarm among major global powers. Israel has strong security partnerships with the United States and other Western allies, so any expansion of the conflict could trigger stronger international reactions. Global powers might increase military presence in the region in order to protect their interests and prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. In the end, the entry of North Korea into an Iran-Israel war would likely make the entire region far more unstable. More violence, economic disruption, and political tension could follow, affecting not only the Middle East, but also the wider international community. This kind of scenario reminds the world how quickly conflicts can grow, and why peaceful dialogue remains the most important path to lasting stability. In situations like these, it is important to remember that war is never a true solution to international problems. When nations such as Iran, Israel, and North Korea become involved in conflict, the suffering is not limited to soldiers on the battlefield. Ordinary civilians are often the ones who pay the highest price through destroyed homes, lost lives, economic hardship, and years of instability. War may appear to solve immediate political tensions, but in reality, it often creates deeper problems that last for generations. The world has already witnessed how destructive large conflicts can be, and that is why diplomacy and dialogue remain essential tools in international relations. Countries such as the United States and other global powers often encourage negotiations, peace agreements, and diplomatic solutions to prevent wars from expanding. True strength lies not in destruction, but in cooperation, understanding, and peaceful negotiation, because only through these paths can